recording this. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll stop here. I just wanted to.
No problem at all. Yeah, I'll just reiterate what I initially said. Again, thank you all for volunteering, and that a large chunk, more than half of the budget is typically in the ground on a playground project. It's safety surface, it's under drains, it's the actual site work that needs to take place to get the equipment in, clear the old equipment, those types of things. So we have a couple examples that we'll run through, a couple projections that we can look at on the screen. I'll share my screen in a moment to kind of see the general concepts that are before us as far as landscape structures products. Andy Crush is with us today, as well as Larry McConnell with you guys are with landscape structures or
general recreation and landscape structures.
That's it. So we'll go through the slideshow. Typically with playground equipment, the higher you get in a playground, as far as equipment, the more safety area you need around those pieces of equipment. So your footprint's getting larger the higher you go with equipment. So as we look through these slides, some of the pieces might not be huge, some might be more huge. And as we work through the process of what to include and what not to include, you'll get a better picture of what can fit in the given space. We're currently looking at the current footprint of both existing playgrounds. There is a slight opportunity to expand those footprints in different directions, but the concepts we came up with are currently in the existing footprint. We also have some drainage issues over there. They were recently addressed in the short term to try and alleviate some of the flooding that would occur in the playground. But that's also something to keep in mind, particularly with the safety surface and how that park, the water runs off and the direction it goes. So we need to look at those things as well. So I am going to try to share my screen again. Get those up here. So I believe I have my screen shared. Does everyone see that?
Yep.
Yep.
Excellent. So this is concept number one. We were kind of looking for a more accessible playground, inclusive play, for various ramping systems to get onto a multi-play unit. This is the larger playground. So I will say in the playground world, there's structures that are designed for 5 to 12-year-olds, and then playground structures that are designed for 2 to 5-year-olds. That's really based on physical abilities, mental acuity, things of that nature, to engage those age groups and keep them interested and engaged. But it's also for safety reasons, trying to keep some of the older kids that may run faster, be a little bit more agile and maybe a lot more daredevilish, for lack of a better word, out of the same space where, a toddler is struggling to walk, let alone get on a swing or things of that nature. So this is the initial concept here. I'll run through a few slides here. And Larry and Andy, please chime in at any point in time if you want to point out anything in particular.
Yeah. While we're on this slide, there's a spinning, the green saucer there. That's a great inclusive play piece that you can transfer from a chair. It's at a height of 16 inches, which is a transfer height. So you can transfer out of a chair and kids can work as a group to spin that. I really like that as an inclusive play piece, but obviously anyone can use it, and it doesn't appear to be accommodating to just that population. Then as you see near that area where the wheelchair is, you see the ramping. We have some ramping on this structure to get up to that large tan feature on the left of the structure, which is we call a sway fund, which allows wheelchair users as well as able-bodied users to shift their weight and basically rock back and forth in a rocking motion that's kind of unique in a group activity. and therefore, parallel play and inclusive. And then on the left over here, we've got the swing on the left with the saucer. We have that in the oodle swing. That's a multi-user swing. So children can play together on the swing. That's another great inclusive piece. There's a small spinner it's facing the other direction, but right in front of the climber, there's a small spinner. It's almost like a little lounge chair that you can spin in, and it's got a high back and it's sort of a secure seating for almost anybody to use. Beyond that is a traditional climber, a little more challenging for your everyday user. And then to the right above the first spinner we talked about, right there is another multi-user. It could be used by one child or up to three to stand on and spin. Most of the rest of the stuff we'll probably explain in the next slide or two.
Andy, would you mind if I interrupted you for a second?
Sure.
I wonder if we can pose some initial questions to kind of get just a general lay of the land and what our objective is.
Yeah.
These are probably most geared towards you, Donna. But we were curious, well, first of all, like, what's our expected timeline for when ground would break and when this would be completed?
So it really will depend ultimately on the safety surface we choose.
Okay.
So we don't want to get into a situation like we have with South Ardmore right now, where the window closed on a port-in-place safety surface. So, and that's weather dependent. A wood fiber, the wood carpet, which is ADA compliant, also, but not the easiest to traverse if you are not able-bodied. It can be done in any season, but when we're talking about the port in place, we have to time that such that the temperatures will work with us. So if we're looking at a port in place, which the budget has tolerances for, depending on how much we would expand the footprint of the playground, we'd probably be looking at a 2026 installation, probably starting as we did with Gladwin. We started in February, and that is about to wrap up the beginning of May. Just due to timing for acquisition of the equipment, we'd be looking at, depending on the pieces you pick. And Larry and Andy could probably speak a little bit more to availability and what their shipping timeframes are. But, typically you're looking at least, 4 to 5 months to acquire the equipment. And then, figure out the site clearing, etc. So we would try to do that over the winter, so we would get the summer months in on the existing playground and start in the fall for the removals, etc. With a wood surface. With a port in place, we would probably stay the winter with the existing and look at a first quarter installation for a continuous work, so the playground's not sitting there unusable.
Okay. And with regards to the drain work that was already done, would that, the fruit of that labor be able to be maintained? Or is that basically gonna be lost at the point where, digging things up and installing new?
It would be lost to this site. We would be reusing that material probably elsewhere to make some corrections, but yeah, that was more of a temporary fix because it was unusable the way the flooding would occur.
Okay.
But because of the way the footings occur with different pieces of equipment, it's very basically they strip the site down to bare earth and have the equipment installed in, so the footings are in earth, and then a stone base and the drainage, etc. go in afterwards. So having clean slate is usually the most cost-effective and efficient way to get it done.
Okay. Do we have like a deadline where we have to make this decision before funding is lost?
No, No, so typically what we do with this, it's funded in the capital improvement plan. What we do is, we reappropriate unused funds into the next year. So, ideally, in my perfect world, we do it as soon as we can,
Right.
with all the appropriate input, et cetera, to keep everything moving. But we don't have a hard and fast, by June
Okay.
or date.
Is there like a recent push or slew of updates going on in Lower Merion parks right now? Or is this part of like a general, very like regular process and all the parks are getting sort of updated just at their regular schedule?
So there was an increase. The board did vote on, bumping up the playground replacement program to an
Uh-huh.
annual replacement, last year. So this project technically was slated for 2026.
Okay,
And it has moved to this year.
gotcha.
So next year I think it might be Ballot Kid. I honestly can't remember, but I think
Okay.
it's Ballot Kidwood for 2026. So there's usually a lot of overlap just due to the timing of acquisition, et cetera.
Okay, and are all the parks undergoing this similar process where we get, proposals from um similar vendors and, looking at similar structures? Or is there any?
Yes, yeah. So there's a very large catalog, of structures with this company. They are a CoStarz vendor. We also like to keep our playgrounds in a similar scheme of vendors so that we can stock parts for easy replacement. Typically the things that go are the things that move, and everyone loves the things that move. So the quicker we can replace them and acquire replacement pieces, the better. And as I said, this is just an example of some of their pieces. There's I can share their website for a catalog of additional pieces. As I said, then if you choose something different, the fall area may change and kind of move things around a little bit.
I think that will be great if we can see the catalog of other, I think that's kind of like what the group of us have wanted to know if there's exactly what you suggested, some sort of a catalog that we can look and, help us knowing more and maybe choosing better.
Absolutely.
Sarah, did you want to comment?
Yeah, well, thank you everyone for your work thus far and the proposals, and it's really exciting to see and think about, what changes could be made. I live across the street on Revere and just really love the playground. So on the yellow and red spinner that's there right now, is that something that that would not be there in these two proposals? It would be taken out?
You're talking
That's correct.
the merry-go-round?
Yeah. Okay, so that would be taken out. All right. Is it possible to get more of like a rotating climber structure there?
Sure.
Larry or Andy,
Yeah.
do you have your catalog available to you, like that you could share some images of some of your other pieces?
Yeah, how can I do this?
I think for us, while you're pulling it up, Andy, I think for us, a lot of the conversation in our meeting that we had, we love the design and we love to see where this is going. But I think for the group, there was a lot of feedback around, making sure that we're utilizing the space appropriately and in a way that it's not just one or two kids who are going to be able to use it at a time, that there's multiple people who can use it. That it's a high traffic park that sees a lot of movement daily. We also see that a lot of the kids love the swings, and we saw that some of those were going away. We wanted to make sure that one of the reasons why I think Sarah asked about the yellow and red spinner that's currently there, the merry-go-round, is that it's like one of the most favorite toys in the playground today. I mean, there's anywhere from 10 to 20 kids on that at a given time period. They just love that. And so we want to make sure that the stuff that's going in isn't just taking up space, but it's actually going to be utilized. The kids there love to climb. a lot of us have kids that are climbers, so we want to make sure that there's like an area for that, maybe specifically. Um, how can we see something like the merry-go-round go in where it's not just one, two, or three people, but multiple people? And then I do love that, and we've all loved that there was inclusion here in the concepts, and we want to make sure that we're keeping that in the back of our minds too. How do we make sure that we're including everyone in these, so that all kids can use it? Did I miss anything from like our notes, guys? I just know that there was a lot of climbing, and we want to make sure the structures are open to everyone.
Well, so can I just add one other note that, sort of got passed around a little bit earlier? Obviously the equipment's great and new equipment's great, maintenance issues, accessibility. I think that there was also some interest in, whether it's this equipment or whether it's equipment that we could match with some more naturalistic elements. So when we go to other parks that we see and places that we've seen, kind of some interesting things, there's often, coupled with very traditional playground equipment, whether it be boulders to climb on or, some other more naturalistic things that, both promote some open-ended play. They provide some aesthetic interest, but also, the pile of rocks becomes the castle. The logs become, that sort of jump off point for playing some kind of an imaginative game. And I recognize that this is a conversation about, the equipment, but I think that there's also some interest, coupled obviously with the needs for safety and space and circulation and what have you, of incorporating some naturalistic elements into this as a way to both expand the opportunities for play, and also expand, well, actually, I mean, it becomes both a thing to play on and an expansion of the interest in play that's out there. So I'll just toss that out there.
And I wanted to just really emphasize what Mike said, because I agree 100%. And in fact, we had a meeting, like I said, Nick was the one who arranged it as the president. And, we think that there's many, many parks in our area, in the whole Lower Merion area and Mainline. But there's something very special, as Gilda knows, in our little park in General Wayne. It's very green, it's very foresty, it's very magical. There's kids from everywhere that are coming. And we want to do, I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. The two programs that you showed are beautiful and amazing, but we want to do something a little bit different. And several of us compiled, and I wanted to ask permission from Donna if I can share screen for 1 minute, because we compiled a few pictures just to give you kind of a sense of things that we were thinking about, and kind of in line with what Mike just said. Can you just, you host disabled participant screen sharing. Maybe there's a way that you can allow me to share or make me co-host, and then I can share it.
Give that a shot. I think
Perfect. So I'll show you. Do you see my screen here?
Yep.
Okay, so this is an example of the merry-go-round thing that the kids, that's what we have now. I don't know if it's up to code or what, but it's something that the kids love, and many kids can play on it. And so that's kind of something an element that we like more so than the green spinny that has only 4 spots. But just to show you a few examples, maybe Mike, that's kind of similar to, but there's a lot of parks in the country that have things more natural with blocks. Like, for example, Nick really liked this type of, and again, it's not something that we're honing into, but just examples to show you what we're thinking. Some of the pictures that I'm going to show you also are obviously going to be more than $1 million, but just to show you. A lot of us, we have discussed, and again, it's not, we can do part more inclusive, but we know that our kids love climbing. If you go to the Smith playground, for example, there's a big climbing apparatus that almost always the kids, it's always full. Kids love to climb on it. This is an example from another park, I forgot, in Detroit, or some sort of like a big ball that you can climb inside. This is somehow, a little bit of more natural to work with trees. Again, I'm just giving you several examples. This ball on the left side, you can see here, many, many, many children. And again, I'm not saying that that's all that we're going to have, but something in addition to the things that you have showed that, this obviously is not going to be inclusive for kids with wheelchair, but in addition, this could be very, very useful for a lot of different children. This is another example of something with wood logs and rocks, a climbing net over here. This is obviously going to be very expensive. This is from the Bronx. And oh, I don't know if I can show pictures. This is another type of an example for a kind of like a spinny thing, but you can see that many kids can sit on it, and it's the same footprint in terms of the size of it, meaning diameter, etc. But obviously the green little thing can only hold like 3 or 4 kids, and this is much more. And this is an example for a climbing net that you see all over the United States, and we know for a fact that kids absolutely love this. This is an example from Sisters Park, which Nick always talks about, because this is in Philadelphia by JFK. And again, it's maybe, Mike, this is kind of resonates with what you said, which is basically enhancing the beautiful nature in our park, and, you know, more boulders, more climbing stuff that kids can just go wild and enjoy nature. This is the climbing net that I showed you in, this is actually a picture from Smith's Garden. So you can see that it's a beautiful park and a beautiful net that kids can, here in the center, they can stand or do things, but they can climb all over. Oops, now I can't show you a few other, I wanted to show you a few other, but I can't reach it for some reason. Oh, here it is. This again, you can see, this is, I forget, it's called this, so you see we put some thought into it, and we looked at other places in the country. This has a lot of wood and climbing nets and things of that sort. This is from Buffalo, I showed you this before. And this is another example for a climbing net that kids would absolutely go crazy for. And that's what I have to share with you so far, and thank you for letting me speak.
No,
Nick, do you have
absolutely.
anything to add to what I said, Nick?
Well, no, I would just love to hear Donna's, you know, thoughts about that. And
No, and that's what this is all about. So I think landscape structures have a number of the items, maybe not exactly, you know, what those pieces are. Larry or Andy, I don't know if you can speak to any of your nature play type pieces, but they have a multitude of different climbing structures and net structures and things of that nature.
Yeah, we've got lots of cable climbing, like a lot you showed in those examples. We've got Global Motion, which is a large spinning net, similar to what you showed. We've got, we don't use wood. We use GFRC, glass reinforced concrete. It's going to be much more durable. And since it's manufactured, it's consistent, and it can meet all the safety standards that it needs to meet, as opposed to assembling lumber that, you know, can check, crack, degrade over time. Obviously, the concrete material is, well, it looks natural. We call it nature-inspired play. There's all kinds of climbing boulders and cables that can be attached, and climbing cables can be attached to those boulders. So I think your ideas are great, and we can, you know, we were given 3 criteria when we were given the project, because we didn't have feedback like this yet. We were given a roundabout overall budget. We were given, you know, we want something challenging, very challenging. I've heard that from somebody. We wanted something very challenging, as dangerous as possible, I think, were the words that we heard. And then we said inclusive. So what we tried to do in these designs is provide our more traditional equipment, because we didn't have any feedback at that point about nature-inspired play, right? Or any of the, so we had some, each structure has some more challenging climbers, but also has inclusive play features. And in each design, there was, I think in one design, there's a ramp structure on a 5 to 12-year-old unit, and there's a ramp structure on a 2 to 5-year-old unit. So this is great feedback for us, and that's why we have these meetings. And this is really important, because, you know, as a community, we want to meet your needs. So that's sort of where we're at. So, you know, we just came up with, tried to fit equipment into the existing space in the little bit of information we had, and that's what you're looking at, right? And that's why we're having this meeting and getting feedback, because rarely do we do a design or two and show it to a community group and say, that's the one we want. That's just not the way it works. So we're prepared to get the feedback and create designs that'll be more in the realm of, I think, what your group's looking for.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate that. I think the only other for me, like monkey bars would be, I'd really like to have monkey bars in the playground, as well as sitting and standing spinners. Just from an OT developmental standpoint, inner ear development, and things like that would be good in a playground. I don't have those. That's all I wanted to express during the meeting. Anyone else?
Well, if I could just add one thing. So we do have two playgrounds, right? So we have a playground for littler kids, and we have a playground for bigger kids. And I think that, again, not wanting to speak for anyone else, it feels like maybe the playground for littler kids could have a little bit less of the naturalistic stuff, some more sort of regular, very safety oriented, kind of an updated version of what's there. Not to say that we wouldn't like to get some newer versions, and that's like a great space to like incorporate some extra seating, because oftentimes you have a parent who wants to be super close to their kid while they're on that little lot, as opposed to then when we get to the other side where it's, older kids, a little more space. I was going to throw out two other things that I just wanted to mention as sort of notes for this conversation. The first is that we do have this grade change in this retaining wall behind the playground. So one of the things when we think about climbing and sort of utilizing some grade change is maybe extending the play space right back to the wall. And then I guess we'd have to have somebody from the township come in and tell us that, that wall's not about to collapse. But it might be a good opportunity to create some up and down space using the grade change that we have there. I also wanted to add something that I think is related to this project, though it's not directly related to the playground equipment, which is we have this funky little patio in front of where the bathrooms are. But that patio has 4 trees that are planted in the patio. And there's a couple of things going on. First of all, those trees have never done particularly well. But second of all, I think if those trees were removed or moved to the perimeter, that could actually become a space that could be used for some birthday parties, and maybe it gets some seating in there as well. Because I know for me, when I'm, with my kids, I'm sort of hovering between the two playgrounds, and I see a lot of other parents that are doing that. So potentially taking that space and making it a slightly more inviting seating space that creates, sort of first of all, there's not even a seat in that patio now. But potentially those trees moving to the perimeter. Now you could do like a birthday party. It could be a place for 2 picnic tables. But also I'm just thinking, I think a lot about, is there a bench for the kid who needs a timeout? Is there a bench for mom and dad who want to sit maybe in a semicircle having a conversation while kids play? And I think that as opposed to the benches just being off in the perimeter or even outside the playground, I think about like at Ashbridge Park, there's some really neat kind of curved seating that's integrated right into the playground space. And the playground's for kids, but when I go, I'm looking for a place to sit and watch. So just something to consider as well. And again, maybe that's built into some more naturalistic elements, but just something to consider when we think about the layout of all this stuff. Where do us old folks sit down?
That's great information. Anybody else?
Do we have any plans to redo like the walkways or any of the other stuff in the park, the basketballs or the courts or anything like that? Is it just the playground equipment at this time?
Yes, it's just the playground equipment at this time. The hard surfaces actually weren't done that long ago, or were redone not that long ago. We can always look at them. Like I said, the drainage that we've talked about and how the water kind of sheens in that direction, and some of the work that Dave has done to alleviate that in a temporary manner. But trying to find a permanent solution that's not destructive of the existing trees, mature trees that are there, has been challenging because of the excavation needs that would be required to kind of alleviate it in total. But
I don't know about others, but one thing that I always notice is that a lot of the parents congregate right on the walkways because there's only really one way in to the playground, and then like where like sort of going on what Mike was saying with the benches and stuff, but like everyone sits in front, and then all the kids who are on like wheeled devices, their bikes, their scooters, there's nowhere for them to go. The path is like super small. The parents don't really like them for some of the younger kids going out and above and around the park by themselves, right? There's cars, so there's nowhere for them to like scoot. So then they end up going to the basketball courts, but they can't do it because people are playing basketball and like kids are running around. So it would be great if there was some way to think about as we can expand this, how do we facilitate that? Because it is a park, but there's a lot of grass, and so it makes it hard. There's not like a good area for the kids who want to learn to ride their bikes or are riding their bikes and stuff. And so they're trying to go down the hills and right into where all the kids are on the pathway because it's only one way in and one way out.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think on the in and out of the playground, I think we can resolve that as part of this type of project. Just by kind of more expanding the footprint to kind of meet up with the existing pathways. As far as creating more impervious surface or even a pervious paving type of area for wheeled structures, or wheeled play.
Yeah.
I don't know that we can address that as part of this project, but I did make a note for inclusion in the.
I just
capital.
think about like the grassy muddy area, like where the turtle is right now, that doesn't really offer any sort of anything, right? But if we move that and there was more hard surface there, right? Could that be an area or something, right? Where we're utilizing the actual space that we have where to like expand up closer to the basketball courts or whatever in some ways, you know?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
and that might be the conclusion of it, that it's better off to paved surface, but listening to some of the comments with regards to the play structures and the play elements you're interested in, I think we're rapidly taking that space for.
I don't mind that either if we're going to
Right.
utilize that in a better way than just muddy grass that tracks
Yes,
out my house.
exactly. Yeah, no, it definitely would be encompassed in the footprint of the new play area. And I would, I guess, charge you with maybe kind of going back to the neighbors and talking about, we've in years past, and I'm saying, Dave's been here what 20 years or something, but at the bottom of the sledding hill, the sacred landing of the sledding hill, that we planted a tree there once and it had to be removed because it was the bottom of the sledding hill. So, I get that. And we're lately been able to sled a little bit more, but what would be more useful, if that area could have another use that could benefit the community as well in all seasons. So those types of things globally, I don't want to address that in this. I'd really like to be focused on the play area and whether it can include or can't include, a surface that for that purpose, or should it kind of focus on, some of these other elements that we're talking about now.
Donna, can I make one more comment or a couple? So
Yeah.
first of all, I really wanted to say how appreciative all of us are, the whole community, of how, you are not rigid. You're the opposite of rigid. You are like truly, all of you are coming and to listen and to really hear our feedback. And it's amazing. So I just wanted to thank you for doing that. Another point that I wanted to raise is, and this is going to sound a little bit of funny, but I see people in the park because, out of all the people here, Sean and Sarah are the ones who they literally live by the entrance of the park. But everybody, including the Gomez's, myself, Nick, and we're all going to the park. And we often see people from the whole area of the mainland, Lower Merion, who come because, I've heard several times that this park, for whatever reason, is the gem of Lower Merion. Really, I don't know why. And it's really beautiful. And my question is there any way, because you see that we have a lot of ideas of climbing things and natural things, if needed, is there any way to allocate more money than $1 million? Because again, it's like, I really think that this could be one of the most amazing playgrounds in the United States. I kid you not.
You know, we can always ask the question. There's 14 members of the board. I have no doubt Gilda would support that. And I probably would assume some others, but you know, that would be a question. I always try to stay within budget, but you know, if it makes sense, we ask the question and you know, we take that to the full board of 14 and they would vote on.
Very good. And I have another question to Gilda, actually. I think that Gilda is on the, Nick was suggesting, you know, is there any possibility of making the area kind of interesting with maybe some sort of a locally made, artist-made installations? And obviously, Gilda, you told me previously that you're thinking about working with local artists, etc. Is there any room of doing something, you know, maybe interesting like that? And again, I'm asking on behalf of Nick.
Sure. I mean, I think that one of the things that could be done that could be really easy, because I know we're thinking about this for maybe parts of the Kenwood Heritage Trail, would even be to have painted benches, you know, where we could commission local artists to, you know, design an interesting bench. And that would be like a, you know, there's things like that. Now, I don't know what other types of art things you are interested in including. That is probably going to be outside the budget, and might need some, you know, special fundraising for those types of things. You know, but that's, if people want something like, you know, an art installation somewhere in connection with this, I don't see why you shouldn't be able to try something like that, as long as it doesn't interfere with the play space or the, you know.
So, Donna, I actually have a question related both to budget and equipment. So, like, for example, there are swings there, as were mentioned. Is there, you know, obviously we're talking about the carousel, which I think we just happen to have an affection for as a community, but things like the swing set, you know, is it possible to work under the assumption that, hey, listen, as a budget saving process, we'll keep the 2 swing sets, you know, obviously it confines us a little bit in terms of layout for other things, but is that, you know, is there anything there that is salvageable and or, you know, by the time you have to do the whole place surface over again, do those things get lost? And I'm really asking under the assumption that, hey, like if we could keep the 2 swing sets, maybe that opens up, I mean, I'm sure it doesn't open up $100,000, but you know, it might open up, you know, some piece of budget for another piece of equipment or some other improvement somewhere. Is that on the table, or is that just a non-starter because of either age or equipment wear or whatever that looks like?
I wouldn't say it's a non-starter. And I know Dave actually installed the newer swing sets more recently. It may not save the money that you think it would, because the people that aren't on this call that you kind of don't see behind the scenes are the people that do all the site work, kind of remove the playground, etc. Typically, when they have to work around something, it ends up costing more. Or when they have to try to salvage something, it ends up costing more. So it's not off the table, but I don't know that it'll ultimately meet the end that you're trying to meet. So you know, we'll keep it, you know, in the queue and keep floating it around. And you know, when you say it, it makes sense. But then when you take a step back and kind of look at a couple other moving parts, it may or may not.
Hey, Larry, correct me if I'm wrong. The one newer swing set that I think is in the 2 to 5, in the 5 to 12 area, was our swing installed about a year and a half ago.
Yes, that was just put in by the township by Davis.
Right.
Put that one
Maybe
in
2 years ago. I forget how long ago, but
last year.
there's no reason for, you know, that swing set to come out, I don't believe. I think the other swing set might be 40 years old. So we're planning on, right or wrong, reusing that one existing newer swing set. And it's shown on the plan so you could understand it was staying there, really, not that we're providing new. Just so you know.
That's correct.
That's helpful. Thank you. Yeah, no, everything's on the table and we'll definitely take a look at everything and do the most, magical playground we can, and obviously keep safety and inclusion and, the challenges in mind. I think probably the best thing to do at this point is make sure you guys see the catalog. I don't know if you guys saw in the chat area the link to their catalog, but if you want to pull that or copy that, use that to thumb through all the different things. There's a lot in there. So it'll kind of give you a general idea of some of the elements that are out there, including some of the kind of naturescape stone holders, etc.
Do we know if that merry-go-round has a governor on it, the existing merry-go-round?
Yeah, yes. But
It does?
I would caution, so from experience, you're going to build a brand new playground and put an
Right.
old merry-go-round in it. It's going to stick out like a sore thumb.
Right.
I think we might be better off trying to find that style and start fresh. It
Gotcha.
does have a governor. It was replaced. So that seems to be a theme of the site we took that out for the old one didn't meet insurance reasons and it was upset a lot of people. And then we put it back in. I think another thing the group might want to talk about is the concrete turtle. Because we had moved that and that got a lot of negative feedback. We had to put that back in. Also, what the tolerance is for removing some of the trees as we would have to expand the footprint. So there's a memorial tree as you come in on the left. The closer you get to that, the worse it is for that. And then there's the maple tree in the muddy root area. It's not a real high value tree to the site, but it's a tree nonetheless that people could get, not happy with. I would say, I understand the piece between the playground and the wall is kind of a dead zone, but it's the root zone of the mature oaks, which are a defining characteristic of the park. So I don't know how much closer we would want to have a construction footprint for that. Because it's just going to be, they're already stressed, it's just going to put more stress to them. And, the difference between the Ashbridge and this one in terms of design of the plaza area in front of the bathroom is that's also was built as like the ADA access for the bathroom. So I think there is the possibility maybe if we remove the trees to do something in the center, but we would have to kind of maintain whatever the regulations would be for the lanes of traffic for accessing the bathrooms. Those are just some things over the years that have kind of transpired at the site. Then I'm not sure, Andy and Larry, I guess we could figure out if we went into it further with the elevations for rubber in terms of really leaving the stuff in place, or if it would have to be removed and then reinstalled on that one swing set, where we would land if they went with rubber, where it would land with the under drain, the stone, and versus the mulch, it's a little easier to make up.
Right.
Yeah, that might be something that Don is right about, maybe leaving it there and keeping it because it is brand new. But it is only a few holes that would have to be redone, so it might have to be taken out and put back
Reinstalled,
reinstalled because of an elevation change. And one last thing on the swings. It's a huge area there, and as Don said, it might be increasing or decreasing and whatever is happening with the footprint. But swings are the first things that are asked for by everybody. Whatever meeting we go to. But remember, 2-seat swing takes up. So that being said, 2-seat swing takes up an area that's 32 wide by 20. That's the two-throw part of the swing by 24. So they take up a lot of area. Again, we can put as many swings in there as you would like, but they still have to be placed away from flow of traffic, and they take up a lot of space. not that we're not going to be putting them in there or doing it, but just, as we're laying it out, this is something we have to keep in mind, and it's hard to grasp sometimes when someone wants 12 swings or 8 swings or 4 swings, and it's just something to think about as you guys are discussing how many swings you might want out there.
Yeah, thank you. Helpful about the turtle. I think maybe the Marion Park should we residents think about what next steps we want and whether that turtle space. So right now, is it included in the designs right now or no? The turtle space is like the turtle not okay. All right. So I guess we could think about whether we would want to include that space. So Donna, you're saying that maybe we could include that space?
It kind of sounds like you already did. I mean,
oh, okay. All right. Sure. Then yeah. All right.
From all the kind of wish list things, but what I think with regards to the turtle specifically, we just need to think about where it will go back and kind of keep it in everyone's mind that it needs to go back somewhere, obviously not in the fall zone of other play equipment. The turtle itself doesn't really have a fall zone. It's low enough to the ground that it's not taking up much space around it, but we obviously can't have a piece of concrete in a fall zone of a swing or something else is higher. So,
but you're saying the turtle needs to remain somewhere in the park. Is that what you're saying?
That's my assumption. We had a turtle issue incident with South Ardmore that everyone was concerned of, because we take it out, we remove it so it doesn't get destroyed, and everyone wants to know where it went. And it will be going back, so I assume that something similar will happen at General Wayne, where we'll store it safely and everyone will ask you guys where it went. And you can reassure them that it's safe and will come back.
Does it need to go back right in the playground area? Because a great spot for it would be the entrance to the park on Maplewood near the bend. There's a wide space there where the path comes to Maplewood, and it could almost be like an entrance piece to the park. It obviously would be separated from the other playground equipment, but there's a lot of people that do egress the park at that point, and it could be a very fun gateway put up at that far end of the path over there. And it could almost become like a little symbol entrance to the park at that end, and have its own little home. And I'm sure we could, as a civic association, maybe clean up around that little area a little bit and make a home for it.
I wanted, if you don't mind, I'd like to go back to something that Yair questioned before about the budget. The issue of the budget is something that came up in the context of another playground where the nearby residents wanted to raise money to put in the ultimate playground. And I think there was some real consensus among people on the board that there are some sort of equity issues, and you don't want one playground to be, so much more extravagant and wonderful than the other ones. And so I think that if you're looking at planning this, you ought to try to stay close within the budget. If something runs a little bit over it, a little bit, I don't think anybody's going to get too upset over, but I don't think you can add another $1 million in and have, the ultimate playground here, because that's just not fair to the rest of the community.
Fair enough. That makes sense. Just because we're getting close to the top of the hour, I want to value all your time. I want to thank you all again. Obviously, conversation will continue. We will set up another one, but I'll send you a link as well to the catalog, just in case you can't pull it off the message. But I'm going to give you some time to kind of absorb that, maybe have other internal meetings or discussions with your neighbors, etc., and maybe come back with some pieces that you can't live without in the playground. We can communicate via email, get that all squared away, and give Larry and Andy some time to see if and how those items might fit together into something cohesive as a playground site. So we might not have another meeting like in the next month, but you guys will be doing some work and getting some feedback to us. And then we'll let Larry and Andy kind of take it from there and get a design together and we'll you know, regroup and should be nicer weather. Maybe we'll regroup out on site. Might not be able to record it, but it might be better to have boots on the ground and kind of see all the spaces and how they interact with each other. So,
Donna, can I ask for feedback on, is there anything on the designs we provided, good, bad, or indifferent, that is desirable or is liked? Is there any pieces, if I don't know what the names of them are, but maybe as you're looking at some of these pieces in the catalog, you'll recognize it from the design, the designs we provided. Is there anything that you do like about the designs?
I can just say that I can jump in and say that there's a lot of things that we like in terms of the, you know, some of the swings, some of the slides. There are some, you know, as we're working with you, that we're thinking because it's kind of a limited space. So for example, in our meeting, one of the consensus points was we really want to preserve space and not, because there's a lot of kids who like to play together. So we're trying not to take too much space for a device that maybe will accommodate only 2 children at a time. So for example, there was unanimous consensus within us that we don't want a zip line, because zip line is fun perhaps, but it takes such a big space and you can do only 2 at a time and there's going to be a line and it's not like a, you know, a fun thing like some of the pictures that I showed that many kids can, like for the same footprint size-wise, meters or whatever you want to say, you can do something that will allow kids to be more engaging with each other instead of, so that's, you know, I'm not answering directly your question. There's a lot of things that we liked. There's several things that we really think that we would prefer not to, including like a carousel that takes a big space but only has 3 spots, and of course the zip line. So
Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
I like the rickety bridge. I think one of them had that rickety bridge and enclosed tunnels or sorry, slides with enclosures. So like a tunnel kind of slide. The spinners were great. Monkey bars, I think one of them had. A lot of potential and stuff. The I think it was design 1 that we were looking at when we started this meeting with the ramp up to the area. While I think the playground should definitely be accessible, I think having that ramp there, some of those younger siblings may get caught up in the 5 to 12 area there with the ramp. Just my initial thought when I saw that very welcoming ramp.
Yeah, I would also love to ask how we can utilize the height too a little bit more. Everything was like one level or like a level up and then a slide down. But in a lot of playgrounds, you see like, you know, multi-level with like hangout areas in between. They have to climb up a little thing to get to. There's lookouts and then another climb up thing. Like, how do we utilize that to also entertain like the climbing aspect of things built into like the large piece?
I'm curious you take a look at the link for the catalog or
Yeah, we already have like a group going of like is that we just love.
But keep in mind, we talk about a significant amount higher dollar purchase at this point. Unfortunately. What we'll try to do is try to come up with some creative designs that incorporate some of that, but may not be some of these $5 million projects you see in the catalog.
Yeah, I mean, like one thing I just put in the chat too that we liked was like this like boulder thing that had like a rope coming up to it, you know, like that. I think like something like that, and then like that net thing behind it, you know.
Yep.
But I like that. We like that kind of stuff around the outside of it, and then like the big play thing like you guys did is great. You know what I mean?
Right. Gotcha.
Does the catalog have costs in it?
Well, not really.
The one that we shared? Okay.
So, you know, I mean, we could provide a price list and it's 150 pages long and you drive yourself insane trying to figure out what they cost. We can let people know what things cost individually, but when we're putting a play structure together, we have the cost of the post and the deck and the climber. That's, you know, it's pieces we're putting together, and it's just too confusing to provide pricing. So in the catalog, they have some price ranges on some of the structures that are in here. It's on these structures, but it's not, no one goes in the catalog and says, you know, I see that one on page 34, it'll fit in my space, we want to buy that. So it'll help you understand what some of these things cost, but keep in mind it was designed for that site with those components on it, and it may not work for you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so
So what you shared, was that you sharing your screen earlier when I commented, this looks really fun? Sorry, it was like a large kind of bluish structure.
that was from the
two slides.
catalog.
Yeah, that's in the
Okay,
catalog.
so-
It's like the
And
cover.
just
of
so
the
I, is that,
catalog.
would that kind of structure be within the $1 million? I
That-
get
that's-
that, like, I'm not gonna understand the breakdown. but I'm
That
just trying to-
structure's $280,000.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate
Up
that.
up to
All right.
300, depending what options you choose.
Okay,
And that's not installed, that's supply.
right. And then as
Because it-
Donna said, all the expenses underground.
And
Yes.
I have to freight it here too, so, the one, I should tell you, that's a brand new structure they came out with. That is really cool. That has like a net material within it that allows, someone in a wheelchair or someone who's not completely able-bodied to scoot all the way up to, a 20-foot high slide. That is pretty cool. It's the only thing in the market we know that is possible like that. No, a wheelchair can't get up there, but a user may be able to. Okay.
That's great. Thank you.
But unfortunately, that thing is, it's expensive.
Yeah, I fully anticipate that you guys are gonna pick things that are not within the budget. But it gives us an idea of,
Yeah.
some direction, and Andy and Larry are clever. It might be able to say, hey, you could squeeze this in if you take this part of it off, or,
Right.
we can figure out some compromises there. So, that'll all be part of the discussion, but I think to not limit your ideas, maybe make a list of, I like these elements of this. I really like all of this, but this is gonna go on my, wish list. So I'm not gonna be heartbroken if we can't do it. But I'd like some sort of element of, this enclosed tunnel, or as you said, the tunnel slides, or, rock climbing features, spinning, nature play, monkey bars, places to sit, group activities, keeping everyone engaged and active. So I think that's probably what our exit strategy from this meeting, and our takeaways is to kind of go through the catalog and dream sort of big. And then we can we'll disappoint you later, type of thing. So we'll work through it and figure it out, and get the best we can for the park. So yeah, I appreciate y'all coming.
Yes.
Time, your thoughts, everything. I will shoot you an email. You guys keep your internal conversations going. Feel free to shoot me any questions or anything, and we'll get through this. And then we'll regroup.
Great.
Appreciate everybody.
Yes.
Thank you.
For allowing us
Thank
this
you.
opportunity.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Really
you.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Donna.
Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks meeting you.
Bye.
Thank you.